Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. Today commemorates the 77th anniversary of the victory in Europe, Second World War. Tonight we will hear the story of Warrant Officer Joseph Daglish Stevenson, who lost his life over the skies of Norway in 1945. My name is Melanie Cassar, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flying Officer Chris Morris. We are honoured to welcome Group Captain Ernie Walsh, President of the Air Force Association, ACT branch. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. Australia's Federation Guard is the tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catafalque party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Catafalque Party, attention! Catafalque Party, present arms!
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Catafalque Party, shoulder arms! Catafalque Party, order arms!
If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Warrant Officer Joseph Daglish Stevenson. Joseph Stevenson was born in Paddington, New South Wales on Christmas Day 1919 to James and Maud Stevenson. His brother Robert was born in January 1924. He grew up in the Kingswood district and attended Lidcombe Commercial School and later Penrith Intermediate High School, where he obtained his intermediate certificate in 1935. Stevenson went on to join the New South Wales Railways, where he completed further studies through the Railway Institute. Soon after the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939, Stevenson's brother Robert joined the Royal Australian Navy and on March 1941 became a member of HMAS Sydney's second crew. On the 2nd of November 1941, Robert, aged only 17, was killed when Sydney was sunk with all hands by the German raider Cormoran off the West Australian coast. Stevenson served for a year with the 2nd of 19th Battalion before joining the Royal Australian Air Force Reserve on the 5th of December 1941. He enlisted for full-time service with the RAAF in Sydney on the 23rd of May 1942 and was accepted for aircrew training. He qualified as a wireless operator air gunner on the 4th of February 1943 and was promoted to sergeant. He sailed from Melbourne on the 6th of March 1943, arriving in England in mid-April. Further training at operational training units followed, during which time he was promoted to temporary flight sergeant. After being introduced to the short Stirling bomber at heavy conversion units, he met his crew, including an Australian pilot. Stevenson was posted in February 1944 to number 90 Squadron RAF, which was equipped with the short Stirling 3 bomber. The following month, he was transferred to number 196 Squadron RAF, equipped with the Mark IV, known as the Cloak and Dagger Stirling, which was part of the RAF's Transport Command. At this time, preparations for the invasion of Normandy were in full swing, and the squadron, which was to tow Horsa gliders and drop British airborne troops into Normandy, spent a lot of time training with their British counterparts. On the 4th of June, the men of 196 Squadron RAF posed for photographs as the invasion of Normandy was due to begin that evening. Later that afternoon, the crews and their paratrooper charges were stood down with the inclement weather caused the invasion to be postponed for 24 hours. At 11:20 p.m. on the 5th of June 1944, 23 Stirlings of 196 Squadron, including one flown by Flying Officer Russell Tickner with Stevenson aboard, took off from Keeville bound for Normandy. Each aircraft carried up to 20 paratroopers and their equipment. As the aircraft crossed the French coastline, German flak and anti-aircraft fire lit up the sky. Shortly after, the paratroopers began to exit the aircraft near the town of Ranville, and the Normandy invasion had begun. The squadron's aircraft then turned for home. One aircraft was shot down, but the other 22 aircraft returned back to England. After D-Day, Stevenson was involved in training missions as well as resupply operations to resistant forces in Norway and France. He was promoted to temporary warrant officer in early August. Stevenson's next big operation was Market Gardener in September 1944. He took part in transporting British airborne forces to Arnhem, Holland on the 17th of September and flew on several resupply operations to Arnhem in the ensuing days. The resupply flights were harrowing, with heavy German flak encountered over the drop zones. On the evening of the 25th of February 1945, Tickner, Stevenson and the rest of their crew took off from the airfield on an operational flight to Norway. Their objective was to resupply a Norwegian resistant group near Navsgard. Soon after crossing Norway's southern border, Tickner's aircraft was attacked by 3 German night fighters. After a brief and unequal struggle, the Stirling starboard wing was in flames and the aircraft was beyond salvation. With the town of Drenal directly in his path, Tickner ordered his crew to bail out, which several of them actually managed to do. Nearby was Lake Holland, which was covered with winter ice, and Tickner aimed his aircraft for the lake. The stricken Stirling crashed through the ice and then disappeared. Tickner, Stevenson and the flight engineer were killed in the crash. Tickner's body was not recovered and is still believed to be in the wreck at the bottom of Lake Holland. Stevenson's body and that of the flight engineer were recovered and laid to rest at Arundel Hogdale Cemetery. He was 25 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died as a result of serving during the Second World War. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Warrant Officer Joseph Daglish Stevenson, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Catapult party, shoulder, arms.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Catapult party, present, arms. Catapult party, shoulder, arms.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Catapult party, in words, turn. Catapult party, quick march.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.